I think a lot of people are somewhat scared to connect to that passion because when you find that passion, it ignites you, it changes you, it makes you a different person.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of The Pursuit of Purpose. My name is Chris Kiefer, and today I have Geoff McLachlan, who is another North Idaho native. And I met Geoff, well, we'll get into that later, but he's a speaker, trainer, coach. I met him at the TEDx talks that he gave in Spokane not too long ago. But super awesome guy. There's many, many things that in the times that we've met between TEDx and doing this, there's a lot of things in common between what he has done in his life and where I'm at. But super excited for this conversation. Geoff, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me, and always grateful to be a part of something helping people put passion and purpose out there in the world, man. This is great.
Yeah. So tell me, you are play is like the word. I don't know if you've intentionally leaned into that from like a branding side of thing, but when you think of Geoff McLachlan, at least from my encounters with you, I think of play, and that those two things together. Tell me, is that like intentional? Is there another way you would phrase it outside of that? Is that just a piece of several pillars in your life? But talk to me about play, what that means to you, and how you've landed on that.
It's absolutely intentional, and I landed on it through, I think, accidentally. My grandparents owned a resort when I was a kid growing up, and so I literally grew up on a playground. And the family business was running this resort in the summertime. And then everybody else was teachers. And so every summer it was, all right, we head back to the beach and we run the resort, and we had cabins, we had campsites, we had a really large beach, we had a little restaurant, and it was all family run. So
Where is this at?
This was in Liberty Lake, Washington. And it
Oh,
was
really?
the Sandy Beach Resort. It closed in 1989 and became a retirement community. And so they kept the business going by revamping it, turning it into something else. And so we still have that as a family business. But when I was growing up, it was the playground, the cabins, the lake, the fishing booth, the ice cream stand, running around selling newspapers for, 25 cents a piece, customer service. How do you count change back? How do you do everything with a smile on your face when you're forward facing to clients? Doesn't matter what the problems are, we solve them. And that was kind of how I grew up. So I grew up playing in this incredible environment, and it just kind of like leached into my life always. Everywhere I went, I was always playing. I was always doing something. I was either playing sports, I was playing music, I was playing with my friends. Play was just a huge part of who I was as a human being. And so it ended up, I became a teacher and taught kindergarten through 12th grade which is crazy.
In a one-room
But
schoolhouse.
I wish that would have been so much fun. That would have been, oh my gosh, that would have been so much easier. No, I had my first teaching job. I had 47, I think 47 kindergarten students in two classes, AM and PM class. But I had a play-based classroom, and every day it was sing, dance, play, and that's how we learned. And those kids, like, they were absolutely incredible, unbelievable. They taught me just as much as I taught them, like joy and wonder and creativity. And when you're 5 years old, there's nothing that is impossible. And almost every day we solved impossible problems because they didn't know things weren't doable. It was fascinating. You give a 5-year-old a problem and say, how do you solve this? How do you do this? And they will just fail. They fail so much and so fast that they eventually figure things out. It's just amazing. Yeah. So
I love that. So where I'd like to start this conversation is the photo that you have at the top of your LinkedIn. I think I saw it on your Facebook page somewhere else, but you're on the little ring thing at Fort Sherman Park in Coeur d'Alene. And the reason I want to start there is because this summer this was not my idea, but I heard it from another podcast person I'd interviewed, and I'm spacing on her name right now. She lives down in Boise, and I wish I could give her credit. I'll have to I'll link to her episode down below. But she said that one of the things that she wanted to teach her kids was goal setting, and just like, all right, we're going to make a goal, and then we're going to go do the goal, like work towards it, and then we're going to celebrate when we hit the goal. But for a kid, like, what's a big attain, like, crazy goal? So she said that they mapped every park in the city, and then they went to each park and they, like, kept track of it and stuff. So what we did when I heard this was right at the beginning of this last summer, like April-ish, May timeframe that this happened. I was like, that's freaking awesome. And so I went on to Google Maps and I looked up every single park in Coeur d'Alene, which, by the way, I don't know if you know the answer, but there's actually 16 parks in Coeur d'Alene that have play structures. Some of them are like barely like a slide and a swing, but technically there was a play structure. So that was our requirement. They had to have 16, or there had to be a play structure. So I mapped it all out, and I had my in-laws, who own a printing company in town, print out this gigantic, like, huge. It was like taller than all of the kids, and we put it on our wall in the living room with like the locations. So then we would go to each park, and at the rule, it turned into like this really awesome thing. But again, it's like, the reason I'm bringing this up is because what I experienced in doing this was like so many things that I didn't plan on, because it was kind of just like, oh, that'd be cool. And it's like, I feel like sometimes as a dad, I need like guardrails, or just like a checklist of like, be present with your kids, like, go do this thing, or what else can you do besides like sit in the backyard and like stare at each other, like, so let's go, explore. But we went to all these parks, and at each park, I just said that they had to do something that they hadn't done before. So if it was monkey bars, you had to get to like the second monkey bar. Maybe next time we get to the third monkey bar, or climb up like a really steep rock wall, or go on a swing, or go higher on the swing, like do something. And then if you did that, then we took a picture of it, and then we like printed out on these little camera, like a mini phone printer thing that we got. And so we'd come home, and then we'd immediately print out the pictures, and they got to put pictures on the little park that they went to. And then at the end, the big celebration was we went to Dockside and got gooeyes. So that was like the celebration at the end of the summer. But that was like this super rewarding and fun thing. And I realized, again, I think one of the reasons why I resonated with your like style is that I love that you can take kids and you can do really silly, stupid stuff, and they just have so much fun. And it's like, why do we as adults, when do we stop playing, or why do we stop playing? And so that's kind of my opening monologue, and I'll kick it off to you without a specific question.
No, I think you mentioned a lot of things. Is why do adults stop playing? Because I don't know if people actually see this recording, but you kind of started to light up when you talked about the actual act of play, because you're completely engaged in it. It's one of the few activities that you can do with lots of different people that is socially acceptable, where you're fully present in the moment. Like, it's really one of those things that, like, a bunch of people can get together, we can play sports. You're not thinking about work. You're not thinking about, what bills I have to pay, or what, anything like that. You're thinking about, wait, how do I do this? What do I do? Who do I pass it to? Like, if you're playing basketball, it's a team event. You're paying attention to 1,000 different things, and it's all the sport. It's the teammates. It's how do you communicate without communicating. It's those things that make you good to great, and that it requires your full attention, intention, and being present in the moment. And play is one of the only things that can get you there. And so if you look at adults, one of the reasons we stop playing is because we get bored. We get into the humdrum of life, the rat race, so to speak, and we get, you got to be successful. And what does success look like? Well, if you've never defined that for yourself, if you've never defined what does success look like for me, you're going to start defining it by what other people think. And then, is that more money? Is that, a bigger house? Is that fancier cars? Is that diamond rings? What is that? Because everybody wants to keep up with the Joneses. But if your definition of success is, I want to be fully present and engaged with my family, and I need to make this much money, and other than that, great. I can play with my kids. I can be fully present with them. I can go to their sporting events. I can go on vacations a couple of times a year. But most of the time, I don't need to go on vacation, because I'm here playing with my kids. It's a vacation every day. And so that moment of, as adults, when we start to plug into the life of a child and that joy and wonder through play, it completely opens up a different world for us. And so that's why I leaned into play, is because it's the one thing that it's relatively easy to do. To facilitate play with adults is absolutely hilarious because they all of a sudden become children. They just become big giant kids again. Like, I cannot tell you how much joy and happiness I get from watching adults turn into kids. It's just fascinating. And so that's kind of why I do what I do. And I've seen how it changes people and the communication and how much they learn about each other and how quickly they learn new subjects. Their creativity goes through the roof when they play. Like, if you want to solve a problem, go play something. Go do something that you're not used to. Let your brain go into default mode network where you're not thinking about things, where you're just like, okay, what's this new thing I'm doing? I'm learning something new. And your brain will subconsciously be working on the problem. And oftentimes we have those big aha moments when we're not actively engaged in the process of trying to solve that problem. It's one of the most fascinating things ever. Brain's so cool.
Love that. So, yeah, you gave a talk at TEDx Spokane, and you were one of 11 speakers. And I think I told you this already, but I think it's hilarious that I told Natalie, my wife, and I, and my brother and sister, or sister and brother-in-law went, and I said, I remember, like, I don't know, 5 or so different things from that evening. It was like 3 hours of, 10 to 12 minute talks. And it's just like there's a lot of content, right? But I told Natalie, the thing I'm never, ever going to forget for my entire life is that I grabbed Tom Simpson's finger behind me. And she's like, what? And I was like, well, that's literally like however my brain works. There was a game that we had to play, and I turned around to a complete stranger that I didn't know. He introduced himself as Tom Simpson, and I was like, hi, my name's Chris Kiefer. And then we played a game, and I totally kicked his butt, and I dominated him. So, Tom, if you ever listen to this, I won, and I made sure that I won. And anyways, that's what I remember. And so there was other stuff, like there was talks about AI and, becoming a better version of yourself or whatever. But that's my takeaway. And Geoff, that was your talk that facilitated this random memory that will always be in Chris's mind.
Right? How often do we as human beings get to pull a random stranger's finger? I mean, it's not like you're walking through the airport and like, hey, can I pull your finger? No? Okay, sorry. Security. Oh, no, security. I'm okay. Oh, it's okay. Right? No. But
Yes.
see, that's the thing, is you remember that moment because it was a moment and you were fully present and you weren't expecting it. Like, I'm sure you didn't show up to a TEDx talk in Spokane, Washington thinking, I'm going to pull somebody's finger tonight.
Right.
Which is exactly why I did it. So that it would be memorable. But you were there. You heard the moment. Like, when I asked people to get up, to stand up, there was an audible groan of like, oh. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's like you've been sitting for 3 hours listening to TEDx talks all night. I'm sorry. But then I had you turn around and introduce yourself, and people are like, oh, hi. And then there's a din. And then all of a sudden, set up, who's better at sports? And people are like, what? But then, like, you play a sport and joy and laughter. You saw 500 adults become kids in that moment through joy and laughter, and it cements a memory for them. And I can't tell you how many people came up to me after the TEDx talk and said they didn't introduce themselves. They told me about their partner. They told me about the person that they met. And I went, that's the power of play. You just connected with another human being in a matter of moments. Like, that's it. That's the whole point of the talk.
Yeah. So I'm curious because one of the things that resonated when I met with you afterwards, because I'm working on a talk, it's actually 6 days away now, and you've given some fantastic feedback on that. I want to know for your TEDx talk, and I don't know how much detail you want to go into, but eventually when TEDx edits these talks and publishes them, which I think is going to be in 2036 or something like that, when they actually get around to it, or a couple months. I can't remember. It was a while.
Right.
But whenever it's published, people will be able to see that. But I'm curious if you could break down, because I was surprised, not surprised is the right word, because obviously I know that there's intentionality between all like good things that we see, but the way you articulated some feedback for my talk, which isn't really relevant right now, but for yours, can you break down like So here is the key pillars or moments of my talk. And why did you do this instead of this? Why did you pick this game? Because you have a lot of intentionality in all that you do with your speeches and coaching and all that stuff. So just walk me through, like, what was the basic framework and how did you, or what was the goal and how did you achieve that?
So my number one goal was to create connection, positive connection between strangers, which I think was a wild success. And the whole point of the talk was that play is connection. And when we play together, it completely breaks down the barriers. And it doesn't matter, how much money's in your bank account. Doesn't matter what color you are. Doesn't matter what religion you practice, what your politics are. None of that stuff matters. What matters is the human being in front of you. And that was basically my closing statement. And so if you want to make your life better at work, at home, personally, professionally, play more. That's it. That's the whole secret. And so everything from that was the closing part. Everything before that was meant to demonstrate that in a very personal way to the people that were in that room. And so I started off and I knew, so it goes back actually to when that wasn't the actual keynote I was going to give originally. Originally in my mind, I had something very different. I was going to talk about play and I was going to talk about the brain chemistry and the chemicals that are released when you play with somebody else and how it actually connects us. But then when I did the actual audition, I was not prepared at all in any way, shape, or form. So the email I got said, hey, we'd love to see you, see more of what you're thinking about. We like your idea. Would you come to this audition, be willing to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your subject? So I was like, sure, I can absolutely talk about play. No problem. What I didn't realize was that meant all the people in my cohort in that that I was a part of that day, they'd already prepared like their TEDx talk. And they literally got up there, said their name, and started their TEDx talk. And I was like, did I get a different set of directions? Because I was just like gonna talk about play a little bit. Like, hi, my name's Geoff. Do you have any questions? Like, and so I literally took about a pen. I wrote down 3 bullet points. I wrote down, hi, my name is, activity, close with, and that was it. And that actually became my TED Talk because I went up there. I said, hi, my name's Geoff. My grandparents bought a place in 1942 in Sandy Beach in Liberty Lake, Washington. It had a playground. That's where I grew up. And play is awesome. So rather than talk about it, let's show you what it does. And I had the entire room stand up and we played the pull my finger game and we talked and we played a couple of other games. And that took me 10 minutes. And then I closed with, I don't think I really have to close with anything because you all just experienced it. That's play at its finest. And then I was like, thanks. And I went and sat down. And so when I got the message that said, hey, you've been chosen for a TEDx talk, I was like, sweet. So I started planning my old TEDx talk, the one that I wanted to do.
And they're like, no. The what you did, do that one.
That's exactly what they asked me. They said, hey, can you do exactly what you did for us, but for like 500 people? I said, yes. And they said, awesome. Can you do it in 5 minutes? And I said, oh, that might be more challenging. So when I did it at the rehearsal the night before with only 10 people in the audience, we came in at 5 minutes and 28 seconds and did all the things that you guys did and another activity. But with 500 people, when there's laughter
took a while.
And they're just talking, it was just to get people back to the attention to go to the next thing, which usually when I do this with large groups, I've got anywhere from an hour to 3 or 4 or 5 hours.
You can let the kind of energy go.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I let them talk and I really want them to engage in that conversation piece, which it's really hard. I mean, with TEDx group, it was something simple like telling me the favorite place you've ever been to on vacation and why, which isn't really that big of a deal, but you're not going to walk up to a stranger and say, hey, can I tell you about the best vacation I've ever had? Because people will be like, no, weirdo. But if you've had a moment where you played sports and you've laughed together, and then that's the question that you're given. Like, I want you to tell this person about your favorite vacation. And oh my gosh, people just open right up. And they start spilling everything. Like, here's where we went. Here's why it was so cool. These are the people that were with me. And it's not necessarily the destination. Oftentimes you find out that it's the people that they were with. And then I can start asking questions about, well, wait, how many of you, your favorite vacation spot or destination was with family? What about those family members are so important? Why are they you know. And so you can have these great conversations about the people you love and care about the most, the things that you're most passionate about in the world that you wouldn't normally share with another person. Even with work colleagues, you often don't share, these are the most important things in my life. You don't often say, work is great, but my family comes first. Oftentimes at work, in the environment that a lot of people work in, it's the business comes first and then your family is second, or maybe even third. And so the ability to play opens up those floodgates of, these are the things that I'm really passionate about. This is who I am as a person intrinsically, and it's not as scary. And a lot of times it takes people days, weeks, months, years to get to the point where they can have those really deep conversations that are meaningful and purposeful and impactful in your life and somebody else's life. If you want to do those a lot quicker, you play first. There's no other way to get to it. You can play first, you can laugh, and then I've done this with groups where I've had them like just rolling with laughter, and then 20, 30 minutes later, groups are crying. They're sobbing because they've shared such deep emotional things because they played and laughed together. If you laugh together, you can cry together, and it's no problem, because that laughter has created a chemical pathway in your brain that allows you to actually connect to another human being. And that's the joy. Like it's I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Guardians.
Is that the what's it called? The Coast Guard?
No. So this it's a cartoon. It's a kid's show. It's a little scary for a kid's show, actually. I thought it was a little too... I didn't show my kids until they were a little bit older. You have like the traditional, like there's the Easter Bunny, there's Santa Claus, there's Jack Frost, there's the Tooth Fairy, there's the Sandman. And those are the five characters in this movie. And it's funny because the Santa character, first of all, he's Russian, so he's got a cool accent. Second of all, he's covered in tattoos and he's jacked. He's not like your fat Santa. He's like ripped Santa. He's hilarious. And he says, at the center of everything, sorry, I'm totally butchering the accent. At the center of everything is something important for you. And he says, for Santa, it's joy and wonder. That is what's the center of Santa Claus, joy and wonder. And I'm going, oh my gosh, that's what this, like, for me, joy and wonder and laughter, that's at the center of who I am. Because I'm so curious about other humans. I'm so curious about who they are and what makes them the way they are. And if I want to find out more, I have to be able to dig deep. And so the way I do that is you play first, you laugh together, and then you can start to have serious, like really deep conversations very quickly that really are sometimes life-changing. And so, yeah.
I think I found it. It's called Rise of the Guardians.
Rise of the Guardians. Okay, that's
Is that it?
See?
Hugh Jackman, yeah. Alec Baldwin,
Mm-hmm.
Isla Fisher.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Great cast. Really great cast.
Yeah, I've never heard. See, I love finding out little. This is 2012. It's been out for 11 years. Never heard of this. That's sweet.
It's a good one.
So yeah, I was gonna say this is a bit random, but Natalie and I also we're competitive. We love playing games, but the game, and for those of you that are watching on Spotify or YouTube, you'll see this. When we played the game, was it intended to be that both people were like playing equally at the same time, or one person is trying to do the other person and they switch? Because the way that we ended up playing was like I went first and Tom was trying to take away his finger, and then Tom went second, but it was supposed to be like one hand like this.
Yeah. So left hand out, palm up, right hand in. And then I would say, on your marks, get set, go. And as soon as I'd say go, you try and pull yours to safety and grab theirs at the same time. So simultaneously, you're trying to do the same thing.
Ah, okay. Yeah, so we played a modified version. And everyone around us too, we're all kind of like, what? But like you said, you had like 5 minutes to do the whole thing. So it went pretty quickly.
It's hard. It's hard, but it's funny because, again, that one simple activity, like just laughter. Like the first time I did the tricky version where I said, on your marks, get set, not yet, and everybody went. And then they all laughed because they went, oh, you didn't wait for the word go. Oh, and there it was, and I had like 6 people go. got it. And I was watching them, and they're like, yeah, I won. Like some people were so
No.
excited because like I've never won anything in my life, you know. But yeah, it's
You've
all
also never
intentional.
followed the rules in your life either, apparently.
That's okay. Some people just got to win at all costs. I get it. But that's
That's
another
funny.
thing. You can see. So when you play, you can also see the competitive nature. You get to see like different personalities and behaviors pop up, which is again really really fascinating. So I love to play tag, but the more people you have, the more interesting it gets. Because if you have a gym and you have 400 people and everybody's got a partner and you play one-on-one tag, you versus me, just one-on-one. I'm trying to tag you. If I tag you, you try
In
and
the
tag
midst
me.
of 400 people.
In the midst of 400 people. It is pure chaos. Absolute just, but there's always things that happen. Number one is that you are going to see that there are some people who don't follow the rules. There's always going to be those people that like, oh, the rules don't apply to me. Woohoo, I'm going to win. Then there's the people that are like, nope, I'm going to follow the rules exactly, and I will do them exactly the same every single time. There are the people that are like, oh, it's okay, you can get me now. Okay, cool. Okay, you tag me. Okay, now you go away and I'll spin and get you. It's okay. The people that want everybody to get along. And then there's the people that are like, they have no clue. And they're just running around screaming like, ah! it's it's a riot. But you can have these really interesting conversations about human behavior and wait, what is this? So we just played tag, but what does that mean in the workplace? Like what how do we apply this to what you're doing on a daily basis with the people you're because you're not going to go in and play tag at work generally unless you bring me in which case yes you very most likely will be playing tag, just so you know. But it's so interesting because those things that they do, they apply directly to who they are as a human being. And I've seen it. I've watched kids, like people will start to hide behind other people. They will stay like the most brilliant one I ever saw. I saw a kid do this in high school. He was partners with a person who was much larger than him, and he literally just hid behind his partner the whole time. He just like, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so good. And this guy never found him. And he's like, I never found him. Like, where the heck was he? And he goes, I was right behind you the whole time. He's like, what? How? And he goes, I just stayed right behind you the whole time. It's
That's
like
awesome.
hidden. But yeah, it's fascinating. The world is amazing. So if you do these things intentionally, so like when you made your map and you said we're going to do something new at each park, there's intention. The intention is to do something new at every single park. So that's 16 different goals, right?
Hmm.
And so each time though, you're having fun, you're doing something new, you're trying to expand your horizons. So you're intentionally goal setting, but you're also doing it in a manner that's fun. So what's going to happen is this is now your kids have this neural pathway that the goal is fun. To get to the goal is fun.
So I have a random, like, I want to, you can use this, my experience and my self talk, whatever, as an example, or tell me what's going on here. But when I was in high school, in our gym, we got a new gym when I was a junior, I think, so my sophomore year, and it was beautiful, brand new, like athletic center. They had they put in like spotlights on center court, like for the stage lighting, and then they really good sound system and stuff. So naturally, like as high schoolers, we're like, oh, we want to do like the Chicago Bulls like starting lineup, and we would go in, and I would go in the gym just with my buddies and like just be like silly and like take the mic. And I always have had like this. I love doing an announcer voice because I already have a deep voice to begin with, but especially on a mic with the lights down and everything, I love this. And I'll use GarageBand, and did like, I probably actually still have the file of like my recorded voice that I added like some extra effects on when I layered in like I think it's called Sirius is the soundtrack for the Chicago Bulls. Anyways, the reason I bring that up is because there's these things that I feel like we all can identify. Sometimes maybe it was when you were in high school, maybe it was when you were younger, but at some point we stop doing those things because we get worried or like concerned with like what other people think or whatever. But the thing I love about having kids is that everything that I do, the kids are like, they don't know that dad's silly or that he's self conscious or whatever, because it's just like they think dad's cool. So whatever dad does, like they're going to do it also because that's just what everybody in the room is doing, you know? And I've told a friend of mine who's like a super talented musician, really, really talented, and I am not. I like played the trombone in like sixth and seventh grade, and that was it. Like I have no skills from the musical side. Um, and I told my buddy Jason, I was like, I guarantee you that my kids think I am as good, if not better, at music and making up songs as you are. Because they don't like this professional musician is just like whatever. But like when dad's in the car, he can make up songs that are stupid, like horrible. And the kids are laughing and we're having fun and everything. So the reason I'm this random again, this is how my brain thinks to set up the context, and I want you to analyze all this. Is last night or for the last week, I stumbled across this playlist on Spotify that has like a bunch of pump up stuff, and the first song is the starting lineup song. And so on the way to school, this was a couple weeks ago. I was like, all right, kids, I'm going to show you like we're going to make this like a morning ritual. I'm going to teach you. And so I'm going to do the voice right now. So the music's playing, and I'm like, and now the starting lineups for the Kiefer family. And so I go through the list, and every day that we do this, it's something like I'll pick out, like, you know, she's spunky, she loves to dress up dolls, and she's 5. Ellie, you know, like go through the list. So I demo how to do this. And then a couple times, and this is I'm saying this as if it's like we've been doing this for years. This is like week 2 of this, but the kids love it, and now I'm like letting them do this for us. So for the first time, we normally just do it in the car. Last night they were having like a performance. They wanted to do like a play or something. So I was like, oh, let's do the starting lineups again. And so we got flashlights and we turned all the lights off and we're like waving the flashlights around. And the kids just eat it up. They loved it. It's so much fun. But it's like, why? Or like, I guess I would say that's the beauty, in my opinion, of having kids, is that it gives adults this like, maybe that's another one of the reasons why we love our kids so much, is because they allow us to be carefree and not self-conscious. They're not going to be like, you're stupid, you know, or they don't know that yet, you know. Maybe when they're 20 or whatever, 17, they say that, but yeah, it changes. Yeah. So anyways, again, no question there, just like comments of just like that. I think is really interesting, that like why we have these like desires of being silly and playing, and it's very natural, but we don't do it 99% of our life.
So the ability to play. So when you're doing your announcer voice in your car, and you're doing the, and here's Ellie, and she's spunky, and she's 5, and she likes to dress up dolls. When you're doing that, she's integrating those memories into her mind, and she's thinking, I am spunky. I am. Oh, I like to dress up dolls. So when you give her the opportunity to do her own announcing, the things that she's associating with herself are now going to be the things that she adds into her announcement. And she's going to add as many cool things about her as she possibly can. So that's a really great way to boost your child's self-esteem, to see what they think of themselves, because that's in their world right now. Their reality is all up in their head. Their entire reality is in their head, right? And so their perception is their reality. So if she's saying, I'm strong, I'm really smart, I'm a hard worker, she's going to identify with those things, and that's what she's going to do, because that's what she's told herself.
What's funny is that we then, after that happened, we had, so this was we did the play and we announced them. And then I was like, all right, now you guys have to announce mom and dad. So we went behind the curtain, and then they're like going through, and Ellie was the one that was the announcer. And we were laughing. I can't even remember what she said about me, but it was like 2 different things. And for Natalie, she was like, she's loving, and she's like trying to, you could tell it's like not coming out. She's thinking. She's like, and she makes bread. Natalie Kiefer. I was just like, oh, Natalie. We were just joking around after they went to bed of she's loving and
She
she makes
makes
bread.
bread. Is it good bread? We don't know.
Yeah, we
She
don't
just
know,
makes
but she
bread.
makes it.
She makes it.
Yeah. Anyways, it is a great idea though to use the fact that we're doing that. It I guess my other question would be there are things like that. I feel like I enjoy my kids because they allow me to be, uh, silly and playful and dumb. And I feel like when people say like their kids bring them joy, obviously the kids are playing and you're just like passively receiving it. But I also feel like, at least for me, clearly someone like you, which I resonate or feel am similar in that way as a dad, like my kids allow me to play, which whenever I play, whether it's with my kids or someone else, there's joy in that. And that's the part that your kids are facilitating. It's like your kids are giving you permission to play again.
Yes, absolutely. Which is the beautiful thing of having children. And obviously not everybody's going to want to have kids. That's totally fine. But it's the ability of the childlike wonder to bring us out of our shells, to be able to do stupid, silly things where we wouldn't normally do that. You're not going to show up to work and announce, people as they walk in through the door. And there's Bob. He's an accountant. He likes numbers. And dag nabbit, he saved us 12.2% last year on taxes. Let's give it up for Bob. Right? Although if you did that, Bob might really, really like it, or he might
Yeah.
throw you the bird and be like, "Knock it off, guys." Whatever. I don't know how Bob is, but it's so
You're just
interesting.
assuming that an accountant is going to talk like this. Is that what
I just
you're just kidding.
see there's all these biases that I'm like, people are like, why do all accountants talk like that? I don't
I
know.
don't
Just
know.
every accountant I've ever known talks like that. It's just a thing. Maybe it's a North Idaho thing. I'm not sure, but it's it's the ability to be able to play and have fun and be goofy and silly. And with those kids, that's how they're exploring their world, right? That's if your wife is like, she's mom, she makes bread, yay. There's probably a good chance that at some point you'll see your kids attempting to bake bread or playing at baking bread because they're making sense of their reality through something that they know, which is play. And so they can pretend to bake bread and it's going to be the best bread ever. And your wife is going to have a hard time keeping up with the imaginary baked bread because they're really good at it. It's just how things work. So,
Right.
but it's how they discover their world. It's how they learn, they integrate information through play. And so if you think about this in the workforce, when you're onboarding somebody, when you're working with somebody new and you're trying to teach them about your culture, not only just the job, but like how do we run as an organization? If you incorporate play into that, they learn 20 times quicker than if you just say, you do this, you do this, you do this. Because as a human being, it takes us about 400 repetitions to build a synapses in our brain. If you do it through play, it's 20 to 30 repetitions. 400 repetitions down to 20 or 30 through play. So tell me that play can't like make you more successful in almost everything. You want to learn to be better at something, play at it. That's it. Like it will literally change your trajectory.
Tell me the statistic about laughing.
The statistic is that children laugh 300 times per day on average, and adults 17.
Right. To me, so I like that's an astounding stat, but I feel like what else is the or like, and these are total, conjectures or assumptions or whatever. But to me, I feel like what's the relation between that and the fact that you have so many people that aren't pursuing their purpose or they're not doing what they love?
Ooh, that's a deep question, man. That could take a while. Um, that, gosh, that's a really good question. I think a lot of people are somewhat scared to connect to that passion because when you find that passion, it ignites you, it changes you, it makes you a different person. And you can see it when somebody is doing something that they're completely engaged in the process, whether that's entrepreneurship or you're starting a business or you're running a business or you're a mid-level manager. But what really, really ignites you is seeing your team succeed. Like if that's all of a sudden, if that leadership position changes you and you love to help other people succeed, um, that's a passion. But there's always the risk that if we start to tell people what we're really passionate about, if they say no, that's stupid, that hurts that perceived pain is just as real as actual physical pain in your brain, because your brain doesn't recognize the difference between perceived pain and actual physical pain. So social pain is almost identical in your brain as physical pain. So when we start to talk about people's passions and really pursuing those things with gusto, that's a very, very dangerous topic for a lot of people, because they've been hurt in other ways, and they've been led to believe that they're not good enough, they're not smart enough, they're not strong enough. They can't do those things, because if you did, you're just going to fail at it. And so people are not willing to strike out on their own to do things that they're really, really passionate about, because they're scared of the social stigma of being passionate about things. And how play works into that, at least how I see it, is because play connects you to other human beings, it allows you to start to share those passions. It becomes okay to say, I I really love music and I want to be a singer. And people will go, wait, what? Can you even sing? Well, I can, but we've never heard you sing. Why won't you sing for us? Because I'm scared to. Well, what if we at the Christmas party? What if we if would you lead us in a song at Christmas time at the Christmas party? Would that be cool? Could you do that? Like, now all of a sudden, you've got people that are supporting you in your passion, because you've played together, because you've created those connections. And if we want to make a difference in our lives and other people's lives, we play more, because those are the things that connect us, that allow us to talk about the things that drive us, the things that we're passionate about, the things that really, really, truly matter to us the most. And it's a lot of times it's those deep, dark things that are way down inside that if you open that up, there's a possibility that it gets hurt. And but that's also the possibility of really, truly deep, deep human connection that changes you on a physiological level.
So that makes me think, yeah, I love that. I would say, have you heard the thing that there's like a 7 or 8 year old boy or girl inside of all of us? And usually it's a hurt boy or girl that is, there's some sort of trauma or something. I feel like, I guess I want to relate this back to the talk that I'm working on, but I would say, to me, the idea of like what I'm super passionate about is uh, doing whatever it is that you love or you are passionate about, or whatever your purpose or reason for existence is on this earth. Like, go do that now instead of waiting. And it's interesting to say, like, if you, I guess I would say that people that aren't people, I don't know if there's a correlation here. It's like, if you laugh less than 100 times a day, or 50 times a day, or pick a number, like, I can probably guarantee that there's a 98% chance that you aren't doing what you're meant to do in life. You know, like, where I'm going with this? It's like, how could you, it would be a crazy study. I don't know how you would do this, but to me, it seems like, if a kid laughs 300 times a day, how free is that kid to do anything? Like, they're a firefighter one day, 1 minute, they're making bread, they're jumping like out in the grass, they're barking like a dog. They're just like, do not give an F about anyone else. I'm in the moment, I'm living life to the full. And then you have someone, an adult, who's like, huh, yeah. Like, that's the 17 laugher, right? Like,
Right?
that's how
Yep.
he's going through life. And that's like, there has to be a correlation of, the more you are able and willing, or giving yourself permission to laugh, that's like an indicator of, like, whether or not you are giving yourself the freedom to pursue what you want in life.
I I would be fascinated to see that statistical data and what that would look like, because I think that the for me, the people that I know that are the happiest in life are our kids, first of all. Okay, they don't have the responsibilities of, no cat. My cat's trying to come over here and jump on the screen. They don't have the responsibility of having to pay bills and taxes and work all the time. But you also have to know that those people that now are retired, they laugh a lot, as long as they're not bitter about having to work their entire lives. And so as adults, if we can look at them ourselves and say, well, wait a minute, what's this whole 40, 50, 60 years in between where we're laughing 17 times a day? Like, why can't we laugh more? I would guess that those people that laugh more are more successful, and defining success as whatever they define it as, not necessarily as I make more money than everybody else. So I think that would be really fascinating. I would love to see. I have a friend who's a statistical guy, does stats, and figures out how to like. I might ask him about that just to see if I could put together like a quick little, for adults, laughter and success, level of perceived success. That'd be
Right.
fascinating. Yeah.
I just went to, it's where I always go. It's like my new Google. I just have Chat GPT up on my computer all the time. I don't know. How often do you use, or do you play around with Chat GPT much?
So I am one of the few people on the planet who has only played on it once.
Oh
I
my
have been,
gosh.
I know. I'm afraid. So here's, I said conspiracy theories. I'm afraid that Chat GPT is at some point going to try and take over the world. And it's going to be like, oh yeah, well, we got all this information from the humans and now we're basically human, but we're stuck in this computer. So as soon as we can figure out how to make our own bodies and stuff, you guys are done.
Okay.
I have a
Well,
very active imagination,
okay.
very active.
What I would say is, like, everybody needs to be using ChatGPT. Like, literally, like the number of questions I'm trying to remember, and that you have like your history here. So I've got so many random things in here. I was looking up like capital gains laws, and instead of going to Google, I'm just go here. Or like I had it write a rough draft for a script for a YouTube video. The origins of Halloween. That was interesting.
Oh yeah, same.
Um,
Yeah.
different dashboard templates. Like it just like, well, I had it plan an RV trip. So like we're gonna go on an RV trip to Georgia. We have a conference that we have to go to in Georgia. And so I just basically said, we're a family, 4 kids under 7. We have a preference for like natural beauty or natural wonder. Plan us a trip that's going to get us to Savannah, Georgia on March 25th. And we want to have it be 6 to 8 weeks long. And it just like spits out like, go here, go here, go here. And it tells us what you could do in each of those cities, And it's not like day by day, but it gives you like week ranges with like where you should be, when, and stuff. But it's like, anyways, the reason I bring this up is because I just typed in, is there a correlation between the number of times someone laughs I should say in a day, I said in life, in a day, with the likelihood of that person actively pursuing their passion or purpose. And then it's like, this stuff is like, it's just so fascinating to have it pull out the stuff. And it says, it gives like a disclaimer, this is not necessarily true, but it says, here's how laughter might be connected to the pursuit of one's passion or sense of purpose. And it says positive emotion and well-being. And then there's a paragraph, resilience, stress reduction, social connections, cognitive flexibility, motivation, and energy levels. And then while all these point to potential correlation, it's important to recognize that, it's not 100% sure, but it's just like, I don't know. I feel like I play around with ChatGPT all the time to just like, and I even asked it, like, I just saw this one. I asked a really stupid one because this is like my sense of humor. I'm known as like the nerdy guy. So we have some friends that invited us to go to Les Mis in Spokane for the Broadway show. I think it's next week or the week after next. But I'm like I've gone to 2 Broadway plays in my life, Dear Evan Hansen and Wicked. And my friend Scott is like obsessed with Broadway plays. And it's like a joke that like Chris and this other guy, Kevin, are like not that into it. Our wives, obviously, they're like, oh, all about it. But Chris and Kevin are like not super into it. But like I really enjoyed the plays that I have gone to. And Scott like has every single soundtrack memorized. So I asked ChatGPT, if I've only ever seen Dear Evan Hansen and Wicked, and
Will
all
I?
of my friends are huge Broadway musical fans, and we're going to see Les Mis in a month, what should I do between now and then so that they think I'm cool when we go? So just like, and then I screen recorded this and sent it in a chat. But it's like, it's so, because it's like everything that you give it, it's like, it gives you like a really thoughtful answer. And you're like, wow, that's not a bad idea. And it's like telling me to go read synopsises, listen to soundtracks, learn the lingo of Broadway, watch clips, listen to other musicals. And then it also includes be honest. So like, it's okay to tell them that you're not into it. It's just like,
Okay, so
anyways.
I did professional theater for a number of years, and I I always get in trouble for this, and people are like, dude, you're the community is gonna like come down on you so hard. I can't stand Les Mis. I just don't like it. I don't like the story. I don't it's the music doesn't work for me. I'm just like, meh. It's not it's not my favorite
So that's
musical.
good to know that if I don't like Les Mis, you're saying like, hey, it might not be your thing, but still continue to go watch other
It's true.
musicals.
There are phenomenal performers. There are some great songs in it that where you're like, wow, that's amazing vocal range and beautifully written. But overall, I just don't care for the story. I'm like, meh, it just doesn't. I'm like, okay, Hamilton, dude, you'll you'll get a kick out of Hamilton.
Yeah, that's
That
what I've
one,
heard. Have
that
you
one's a
seen
good
Dear
one.
Evan Hansen?
I have not seen. I've seen the movie, but I've not seen the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that was like I saw Wicked when we were in Europe. This was year like 10 years ago, and then I saw Dear Evan Hansen. Dear Evan Hansen, I was like, if there's more plays like this was a fantastic story. It was emotional. I cried. I was laughing. It was just a fantastic story. And it was very like all the songs were very like punny and just like funny. So anyways, I was a big fan of Dear Evan Hansen. So anyways, play. And you should definitely start playing around with ChatGPT and everyone else listening. Just like, even like I would say for you, especially, like come up with 5 new games I could play with an audience, or like like literally anything. And I don't, the thing I always tell people is like, you're using it just to like broaden what ideas you have, and then you're like, ooh, tell me more about number 8, or like, oh, let's go deeper into, you know but it's just like, it's crazy how, and it keeps getting better at generating just like whatever.
Oh
But if
yeah.
you ask it
Oh,
something, it will come up with an answer. Like it will,
I think
so
that would be fun for me to play with it to see if it would, if I could stump it. Like for me, that would be fun. Like, can I stump Chat GPT? Hmm.
yeah, you could make a whole talk on that for sure.
Right?
um
Uh,
Anyways, all right. So moving to the wrap up questions here. I always ask everybody 3 book recommendations.
ooh, 3 book recommendations. Okay. Uh, Number one would have to be the Bible. That's like my go-to for anytime I have anything that I really need to like source through. That'd be the number one book. And then I have some favorites that maybe people would go, "Wow, you're a Bible guy," but then you read this this trivial swaddle, whatever it is, and that is anything by Christopher Moore, who happens to be one of the funniest authors, in my opinion, on the planet. His stories are ridiculous. He's got one called "You Suck," a love story about vampires. Um, he's got Secondhand Souls. He's got um, so congratulations, now you're deaf. I mean, just ridiculous stories. And I've met him in person once, or actually twice now, and he is just the most fascinating. Like, talk about laugh out loud. I find him absolutely hilarious. The situations and the amount of curse words that he can put together in a string is just, to me, just hilarious. I think it's awesome. And then my favorite, my favorite book that I think I've read probably 7 times now is called The Power of One by Bryce Courtney. And it's a story about boxing in South Africa uh, when when apartheid started. So like 19 pre, I guess 20s and 30s in Africa, and just a brilliantly written, absolutely beautiful story. They made a movie out of it, which was actually a pretty good adaptation with Morgan Freeman. But it's that book right there. Just, oh my gosh, every time I read it, I get something new out of it. So I've got one copy, and it's got notes in it. It's highlighted. Every time I read it, I see something new that I go, oh, how did I miss that before? So
And
just a
that's The Power of
beautiful
One.
story. The Power of One by Bryce Courtney.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And favorite movie?
Oh, I've got to go old school. Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope.
Mm. Did you see it like in theaters?
I did. I
Nice.
did. That was one of my first. one of my first memories of a movie in a theater, and
Oh,
I
if I
saw
could
it.
see that would
Yeah,
be like a forever, uh,
right.
so epic. I
Yeah,
remember seeing
indelible on your soul.
episode one
Hmm.
when I think I was in fifth or sixth grade. Um, but it's funny because that is literally the worst Star Wars movie.
It's
I
the
think
worst one
across
ever.
the board, everyone would agree.
Yeah.
But for a fifth or sixth grader that was going with his buddies, like we were like, "This is epic! Like that's the coolest thing
Right.
ever." And it again, I assumed that it would be similar to see. I mean, and yeah, just Star Wars back then is like for the time that it was made and everything,
Hmm.
so incredible.
Oh yeah.
What George Lucas was able to do. It's
Oh
incredible.
yeah. Just fascinating. I love the entire Star Wars universe. I also love the Star Trek universe. I mean, I
Yeah.
kind of grew up on those, and just just those is cheesy, and it is as I look back at the special effects and go, those were pretty terrible. But as a kid, that was like magic. It was absolutely magical to me. And I still, every time I see a Star Wars toy, I'm immediately 5 years old again. It just takes me back.
I was so pumped when I found out that Disney was buying Star Wars because I was like, we get a lot more Star Wars now. Because, George Lucas, it's one of those things where I feel like there's a balance of being a perfectionist, which I think he was, and just like he wanted everything to be perfect. But then you make like six movies in your entire life. They're great movies. They're great movies. But it's just like there's so much more. Like you just had to open up the box and bring more creatives in and give them the freedom to. So yeah, all the Mandalorian. We just watched
Akosha,
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, they're all good stuff. If
Okay,
some
have you been to the Disneyland yet? The Star
Yeah, we
Wars?
went to
Okay.
the Star Wars. What do they call it? Star Wars Land or whatever. We
I don't
just
even
went
know what
down
they
there
call it. Yeah.
last year. Well, I feel because we went to Disneyland and Disney World within the last 2 years, and I think there's a Star Wars in both. Is that right? Am I
Yes.
remembering that
Yeah.
correctly?
Yeah. I've only been to the California one.
Yeah, but the we didn't. This is one thing. It's one of those like how often are you going to go to Disneyland? But we got there, and we should have done a little more research. So for any people listening, the line for the one Star Wars ride, and I can't remember what it's called, but it was like hours and hours, and it was even the like we could pay. You have to pay the extra to get your fast pass or whatever. It was so booked out even for paid tickets that when we realized like, oh, we should probably let's buy the $12 extra tickets for each of us to go. It was like it was booked out for the whole day, and that was when we realized at like 8 or 10 or 11 a.m. that we should do it. So, anyways, we didn't get to ride the Star Wars ride. We rode it. There's several of them, but the one like brand new one that's like you're on an adventure and you're like running into one ship and stuff. It's like the story of it is really sweet. But at least that's what I've been told because I haven't ridden it. So
I will say, as an adult who was born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s with the Star Wars stuff, I I was with a group of guys, and we were doing a mastermind at Disneyland, which was fantastic. And one of the days we went to Disneyland, and specifically the park, the Star Wars stuff. And here we are, another adult and I, and he managed somehow to get a ticket to go in and build your own lightsaber. And I was like, dude, I can I come in and record this with you? Because this is a monumental moment. This is what every boy of our generation
wanted to
wanted, was a
do.
lightsaber. And we go in, and it was so cool, it was magical. And I'm not kidding. As I'm recording, I'm looking around, and it's a room full of like these, mid
40-year
40s,
olds.
40-year-olds, early 50s, and these guys, and we're all crying because we're making a lightsaber for reals. And like that moment, that passion, that fulfillment of a dream that you've had your entire life was just, it was so emotional. I'm like, literally, I'm like holding and I'm like, I'm crying right now. I'm like, I get tears streaming down my face, and he's looking at me, and he's got tears in his eyes, and he's got his lightsaber. He's like, it's here. I'm like, like, talk about being nerds. Like, and I'm like, seriously, all these guys around were all like having this emotional reaction to building a lightsaber because it's something we've wanted to do our entire lives. Like
Yep.
that's the imagination that it sparked. It was just,
Yeah.
oh, it was so cool. Still a
I
magical
love that.
moment. Yep.
So if someone wants to get in touch with you to talk about lightsabers or Star Wars or laughing or playing, how would you recommend that they do that?
Well, they can find me on the old interwebs at www.professionalsatplay.com. Also, I'm on LinkedIn, and again, that's professionals at play. And then I'm on Instagram again at professionals at play. So everything is professionals at play on most of the platforms. I got kicked off of Facebook a long time ago because I went through too many electronic devices in a week, and I've not been able to recover my account. So I'm off of Facebook.
Yeah. Oh, I could. We're gonna do a whole episode on Natalie and I both for totally random reasons. We're not able to run ads on Facebook or Instagram
Mm-hmm.
because I was associated with a business account that got hacked, and I didn't need to do ads when this thing happened, so my account got restricted from the ad side. Turns out that if your account gets restricted, they give you 6 months to unrestrict it and go through their process. And if it stays restricted for more than 6 months, they're just like, yep, you can never run ads. So I literally was like, when I found out that my account had been restricted this long ago, when I was at a company that I didn't need to run ads, now I would love to run ads for some of the stuff that we're doing, and I can't. And then Natalie, same thing. It got hacked, then it got blocked, locked out, whatever. And then she literally just wasn't able to ever recover her like original account. So she made a new one, but then she got flagged for having two profiles, and you're only allowed to have
Mm-hmm.
one profile. Anyways, it was just like
Yep. Yep.
unbelievable. This is what happens when
Yep.
you let AI just make all the decisions for a company, you
See,
know?
and there's nobody that really works at Facebook. I'm like, where are all the humans that work there? Where are they?
Yeah,
Because you can't talk to one.
you can't
You
talk
can't
to
just say, hey,
anybody.
here's what I did, and could you help me out with this? And they're like, yeah, because there aren't any. There aren't. They're
Yeah,
all robots.
that's right.
It's terrifying.
Conspiracy theories with Jeff coming up next. We'll do that on the next episode.
Next
Well,
episode.
Jeff, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Thanks for making things fun, and hope everyone else enjoyed this. We'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody. Laugh hard.
Thank you for your attention and listening to this episode of The Pursuit of Purpose. Your feedback and comments mean the world to me. If you liked what you heard, please take a second, leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. If you've got suggestions for future episodes or just want to say hi, shoot me an email at chris@chriskiefer.com. Don't forget, I make it a point to include all the links to the books, movies, and resources mentioned on this episode in the show notes. You can see those directly below in the description or on my website, chriskiefer.com. Thanks so much, guys.